Chapter 8 Misadventures in Death Tokyo. G'day everyone, Rune here, and this is Chapter 8 of my What If Light Became a Nobody series. If you're new to this series, click the link in the description below to be taken to the playlist. Now let's begin the next chapter. Tilks really isn't sure how to feel about the situation he's currently found himself in. On the one hand, he is somewhat grateful that he isn't going to have to go looking for a place to stay while he waits for the boss Heartless to respawn. But on the other hand, direct interaction with some bodies. If this ever got back to the top 5 of the organization, he was going to be in so much trouble. Sykes was already scary enough on a good day. He does not want to know what he's like on a bad one. And finding out that a member of the organization made direct contact with multiple somebodies for an extended period of time, he's pretty sure constitutes a bad day. The bedroom that he'd been led to and been told that he'd be able to use for the time being was pretty plain. He guesses they don't get much use out of it. The man, Sayu's dad, had left him to get settled, whatever that means. Actually, now that he thinks of it, he didn't even get to ask what a dad is. Well, no way he was doing that now. That'd just be awkward. He's brought out of his thoughts by the sound of an eerie chuckle, which he's quickly becoming familiar with. Turning around, he spots Ryuk sitting on the desk that was set along the wall. Tilting his head, he asks the ghost how he got here. Still chuckling that slightly unnerving chuckle, Ryuk asks him who would stop him. Tilks, remembering how some bodies can't see the ghost monster, concedes the point before he suddenly gets an idea. He asks Ryuk if he wants to keep their partnership going. Amusement glinting in his eyes, Ryuk asks what Tilks has in mind. The teen explains that, with the way everyone is hovering around him with his arm like this, he probably won't be able to go hunting for Heartless as often as he likes. But Ryuk can go around without being seen, so he can look for Heartless and tell him where they are. The same payment applies, and he's looking for 2 types of Heartless. Boss Heartless, like the one that attacked Sayu, and Healer Heartless. He'll get his payment when he brings the information. Ryuk chuckles, resting his chin on his hand while pointing out that Tilks still owes him apples from the last Heartless he found. Is he sure he can afford the number of apples that he's promising? Tilks reaches into his pocket, pulling out a handful of Mooney, watching as it distorts and shifts into a stack of paper notes. I think I've got it covered. After talking to Ryuk, Sayu forces Tilks to have a shower while she throws his clothes in the wash. Tilks relents with his underclothes, but refuses to let his coat out of his sight. Sayu gives him a dress shirt and a pair of slacks to change into before leaving him in the bathroom. The clothes look a bit stiff and restrictive in Tilks' opinion, not very suitable for fighting. As flashy as the organization's coats were, they were magically reinforced to protect the wearer and were designed to be easy to move in and allow the wearer to see clearly, even with the hood up. These look like they'd been made with pure form and no function in mind. He guesses that the people of this world haven't really needed to fight before now. Putting the clothes aside, he quickly showers before getting dressed. They're a little big, probably made for someone a few years older than him. But they were just temporary until his clothes were done washing. He can put up with slightly large clothes until then. He puts his sling back on, then grabs his coat and heads out to the sitting room, where he can hear people talking. He can recognize the voices of Sayu and Sayu's dad, but there's a new voice too. Female and older than Sayu. Maybe more Mr. Sayu's dad's age. Standing in the doorway, he looks in, seeing a woman that does indeed look to be about Sayu's dad's age. With short black hair, brown eyes, and a few age lines around her eyes and mouth. She seems to be arguing with the other two, and Tilks wonders if this is Sayu's mum, yet another word he doesn't know. He considers entering the room, but decides against it. He doesn't want to get in the middle of whatever argument this is. He turns, intending to head back upstairs to wait by the bathroom, only for his foot to catch in the ill-fitting slacks. A startled shout escapes his lips as he falls, turning his body in order to protect his already injured shoulder. The impact of hitting the ground still jostles his shoulder, causing him to bite back a shout of pain. The thundering of hurried footsteps reaches his ears as he tries to push himself up with one hand. He's just managed to push himself into a sitting position when Sayu and her mom and dad surround him, asking what happened. Cheeks burning slightly, he mumbles that he tripped over the legs of the pants Sayu gave him. Sayu's mum kneels down next to him, asking where his clothes are. Tilks explains that Sayu took his clothes to clean them. She gets this look on her face that he can't quite place, something between anger, confusion, and something else that looks like worry, as she asks if he's got anything else. Tilks shakes his head, saying that he's never needed to change clothes before. That look deepens before she puts on a smile that even Tilks can tell is too tight to be genuine. She tells him that they'll go shopping for some new clothes for him tomorrow. Tilks starts to tell her that that's not necessary. He's never needed other clothes before. But she waves him off, saying that it's always better to have it and not need it than need it and not have it. The next morning, when Sayu has left for school and her dad has left for work, Sayu's mum makes good on her promise? Threat? Tilks honestly isn't sure. She takes him to a large shopping district in Shibuya and asks what kind of clothes he likes. Having never bought any before in his existence, he answers honestly with an, I don't know. She frowns before changing the question, asking what type of clothes he wants or needs. Tilks thinks about it. What clothes would he want? What does he need? Something practical would be best. Something that he can move around in easily. Something durable that wouldn't damage easily. Maybe something he can carry stuff in easily? He conveys this to Sayu's mom, and she steers them towards one of the many clothes stores in the area. They spend the next several hours looking around the shop until Tilks' eyes land on a pair of pants sitting on a rack. They're blue, the same blue as Shion and Roxas' eyes. The fabric is sturdy, with elastic around the bottom of the legs to keep them from falling past the ankles. The thing that really catches his attention is that it's completely covered in pockets. With these, he'd have more space for his flowers and Shion's shells. He jumps as Sayu's mom asks him if he likes them, having not heard her approach. He tells her that they look sturdy and practical. She takes one of the pairs from the rack and hands it to him, suggesting he try it on to check the size. Not knowing what else to do, he does just that. It takes them 3 tries before they find a pair that fits him. They add 2 to the basket that Sayu's mom somehow seemed to have manifested out of thin air before moving on to the shirts. Tilks looks around at the patterns and button-downs before heading over to the plain color t-shirts. He adds 1 white one and 1 black one to the basket before allowing Sayu's mom to lead him to the register. When she pulls out her wallet, he places a hand on her wrist, telling her that he can pay. To prove his point, he pulls out a small stack of bills from his pocket, before handing it to the person at the register. The person counts out the amount before handing him his change. As they leave the store, he's suddenly struck with the feeling that he needs to say something. After a moment, he turns to the woman. "Thank you for bringing me here, Sayu's mom." "You're very welcome, dear. And please, just call me Sachiko." Tilks nods, before spotting a fruits and vegetable shop. Pointing it out to Sachiko, he asks if they can stop there so that he can get some apples. She agrees before asking if he likes apples. Tilks shrugs, saying not particularly, but he promised someone some apples and he didn't want to forget to buy them. By the time they're heading back, it's late, and most people have cleared out. Wanting to get back quickly so she can still make dinner, Sachiko suggests that they cut through the quieter parts of town. Not seeing any harm, Tilks agrees and they begin to make their way through. There's no other people, making the area feel a little unsettling. They're about halfway through when Tilks starts to notice it. It's not just that there's no other people, there's no other life at all. And yet, he can't help feeling that there's something watching them. He examines the area around them through his peripheral vision, not wanting anything to notice his suspicion. After a few more minutes, he notices it. The shadows are moving. They're surrounded by Heartless. Keeping his voice low, he asks Sachiko if she has noticed how quiet it is. To his surprise and relief, she nods, telling him that you don't live as the wife of a police officer for over a decade without picking up a few things. She just wishes that she'd noticed sooner. Maybe they wouldn't be in this situation. Tilks tells her it's not her fault. Heartless are really good at hiding. She looks like she wants to say something, but Tilks cuts her off, telling her that he knows a way to get them out of this, but he's going to need her to trust him, and run when he says. Sachiko is quiet for a long moment before she nods. Tilks waits until they're closer to the exit, letting the Heartless close in on them while he readies his summoning window. Once a good number of the Heartless are within striking range, he summons Hourglass and freezes them all in place while shouting for Sachiko to run. The older woman begins to bolt, while Tilks calls on Red Nocturne to attack the frozen Heartless with fireballs. Most are defeated, their physical forms dissolving while their hearts are released, but the ones that aren't become able to move again, advancing on Tilks. Hoping that his gamble was enough to allow Sachiko to escape, he focuses on the Heartless, swinging his summoning window in a wide arc to sweep up a large swath of them up. He quickly notices that the Heartless that normally go down quickly are lasting longer and looks around for anything that could be different. His eyes land on a Heartless that he's never seen before. It looks like a tiny shadow riding on a sakura blossom. It's flying around from one ally to another, healing them. Locking onto the new Heartless, Tilks takes note of the flower, deducing that it's most likely a plant type, meaning fire will be very effective. He calls Red Nocturne again, focusing on the Sakura Rider. The fireballs strike and almost immediately destroy the healer Heartless's form. With the healer gone, it doesn't take him long to take out the rest of the horde. Once all of the Heartless are gone, he begins gathering up the materials that they dropped. He looks up as he hears voices calling out to him. Looking up, he spots Sachiko running back, with Sayu's dad and Ryuzaki beside her. Calmly, he greets them and goes back to gathering the materials. He is startled when Sachiko pulls him into a hug, asking why he hadn't run when he told her to. For a moment, he considers lying, telling them that his foot got stuck or something. Letting somebody see you was one of those rules that got you in massive trouble if anyone found out, so letting them know about your powers was probably worse. But then again, he had already been seen by Sayu, and it would be really hard to come up with a believable lie about why the Heartless had frozen in place, and why they were no longer around. Actually, coming up with an excuse sounded like too much effort for something that wouldn't even matter in the end. It wasn't like they were going to remember him once he left anyway. That's how it works for nobodies. You're remembered as long as you're there, but as soon as you're not immediately in view, you're forgotten. So why bother coming up with a lie that no one's going to believe? He tells her that he didn't need to run. He fights Heartless all the time. It's his job. But Sachiko didn't even have a weapon. She would have gotten hurt, or worse, she would have gotten her heart stolen. Sachiko and Sayu's dad stare at him like he's grown a second head. Unfazed by the sudden weird atmosphere, Ryuzaki asks what he's picking up off the ground. Tilks shows him the handful of materials he's already gathered, explaining that, when Heartless dissipate, they sometimes leave behind fragments of their power in the form of crystals or other materials. He turns back to his gathering as he continues the explanation. If you know the right people, or you know your way around a synthesizer, you can use these fragments to make useful items. He spots a pink crystal that looks like a sakura petal and picks it up. Or, if you're like me, you can use them to strengthen your own power. Calling out his summoning window, he presses the crystal to the surface, allowing it to be absorbed. A second later, Tilks smiles as he sees the new summon added to his window is the Sakura Rider. Not wasting any time, he summons the new Heartless, allowing it to surround him in green healing magic. Within seconds, his body stops aching. He pulls his arm out of its sling and swings it up and down experimentally, pleased to find that there's no pain. He smiles, completely oblivious to the stares he's currently getting from the three adults. I really should have found a healer a long time ago. Healing magic is really useful. And that, everyone, is where I'm going to leave the story for now. Join me next time as Tilks finally gets to complete his mission. I'm Rune. See you next chapter.